All right, guys, real sorry. We had a little, some technical difficulties. Again, we're just working out the kinks of this podcast. That's why we're...
it's a little part 2.
Yeah, so we're going to do a part 1 and part 2 today, and now we're going to continue with Tom's story in part 2, but we do apologize. We will have these things taken care of within the next few weeks. So, Thomas, go ahead, sir.
We were
coming
home from this bar, and we were making a left turn, and we were taking 2 separate cars, me and my girlfriend at the time. And she went through like a yellow turn signal. Okay. And the cop was in the woods somewhere. Sure. You know how they are, and right on her. Okay. Wasn't on me, but when I saw it, I went through the red light too. I was like, I'm not gonna, you know. So the cop pulls up, and he's like, smells the beer on her breath, and he didn't have anything to say to me. He was after the girl. And he said, look, I know you guys are drinking. I know you guys are at this bar. Take a breathalyzer test. We'll see what happens after that, and then we'll talk. So he made the girl take the breathalyzer test. He read it, and it was a little over. He said, listen, we're going to sit here for a half an hour to an hour. After that, if you blow and it comes out good, you're free to go, but leave your car here. And I was a real gentleman to him the whole time. I said, sir, it's my girlfriend. I know. And he said, you're a good guy, no problem. He's like, I'm a father, and I'm looking at you guys like as if you were my kids. Wow. And he sat there behind us.
Yeah, because the Dewey's a nightmare.
Correct.
It's a nightmare.
So he sat behind us like a gentleman. He wasn't aggressive. He was like almost an angel, really. Yeah. Wow. And he waited an hour, and me and my girlfriend just held hands.
Now, before people say that's because you're white, your girlfriend at the time,
full-blown Hispanic, South American.
So continue.
And so we sat there, we held hands, and we kind of just prayed for the best. Yeah. Hour went by, the cop came up.
Jumping jacks or something.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to move, you know.
She's got to blow again.
It was like the most adrenaline I've ever had in my life, and it wasn't even for me.
The guy's giving you a real chance there because
correct.
It's a nightmare.
So he came back to the car. She took the test. It was, she did okay. Right. And he said, all right, here's the deal. I patrol this road. I'm going to be here all night. I want you to leave your car. If you take your car, I'm coming to your house and I'm going to arrest you. So we got picked up, left the car, came back for it the next day. But, I never did that again, and neither did she. Yeah. And that was an example of, like, to me, top-notch policing. Yes. That was a lesson. To keep us there for an hour with your heart rate. I mean, you never forget that.
A Dewey is no joke.
And he would speak to me like he really was trying to teach her the lesson. Sure. He just didn't. Yeah. I didn't.
You're very fortunate that. Yeah, I mean, you were fortunate.
Yep. So he really, in my book, that was a great police officer. He's probably still out there doing his thing, and I'm glad.
But that's the thing. It's very important what you just said because this guy that pulled me over the other day, and he didn't give me the ticket. The fact that the guy let me go when I'm in my car and I don't even touch my phone because of the fact that I thought about that and I'm like, wow, that guy, I almost feel like I'm doing him a dirty by not, if I pick up my phone and I cavalierly like talking to the phone or whatever while I'm driving, it's like, you know what, the guy, I was blessed with another chance. Not, it would have been a crappy ticket. And, so I think there's more lessons. And that's, when
I wish more people had a story like that.
Yeah, I do too. And, I think, though, it's also when you speak to police, and again, we're going to get back to this heinous act that happened with this gentleman being shot.
I just want to say really quickly, when the cop pulled us over, I fully accepted that she may go to jail. Sure. And so did she. Sure. Which is why we were having a heart attack. Right. And there was no resistance. There was no, there was not. It was whatever you say, officer. Yeah.
I think if you
just do that.
Yeah. And it doesn't always mean it's going to work. I just think rule of thumb.
It definitely helps, though.
Rule of thumb is, and it doesn't mean, you don't want to sound like a suck ass when you're talking to them but just just be a
Don't
gentleman
give them a reason
or
to
be a
be
lady.
tense, though.
Yeah, don't their job is tense enough, especially nowadays. So I think that right off the bat helps. But so that's just basically, we're just trying to state, look, I've had bad interactions in the past too, where I have gotten a ticket. I didn't particularly love the guy that pulled me over. He wasn't the nicest guy. When I was younger, it was and he was he really busted my chops. He pulled me over. I was driving for a car auction. I was working security at the car auction. I was probably about 19. And the guys, it was like a mafia-run car auction. They were really... I don't know too much about it. I just know that the guy that was running it was pretty connected. So, everything was always, just you snap the license plate on with a magnet onto the car, and, everything was done real on the DL. So there was a license plate to snap on. It had the insurance card in it. It had, the registration and everything. So if you're taking the truck that belonged to the auction to go pick things up on the roadway, signs and whatnot to point out the auction, you take the plate. I stupidly forgot to put the plate onto the truck, and I drove off to pick up the signs. A sheriff pulled me over, and I wasn't drinking, no drugs, no nothing. I was about a quarter of a mile away from the job, and I understood he couldn't let me drive it back there without a plate, but I explained to him, there is a plate, it's magnetic. I just forgot. It's literally a core. If you follow me down there, I'll give you the plate of the car with everything. He said, no, leave it here, walk back, gave me no insurance, no registration. I mean, every possible ticket he could have given me, he did.
Yeah, that happens.
And I was nice to him. I didn't give him any reason not to, but so that's what I mean. There's all types that,
Life
just
is
like
a
any
box,
other job.
The police is like a box of
Right,
chocolates.
right.
You never know what you're going to
So getting back to what we were talking about with this gentleman, though, that was needlessly shot. Solutions are really where it's at. Not causing more problems by these protests that you're hurting innocent people that don't have anything to do with it. And all you're doing is people that would actually support you or be on your side, you're turning them against you.
Yep.
Because I've heard from a lot of people who were all up in arms when George Floyd was shot. After the protest, you talked to them, and all they talked about was they hated the protesters. And it didn't change their point of view on anything. You got nothing accomplished. All you did was cause more problems. So, with that being said, I think, again, really it's time to start looking at hard solutions, such as the testing to get police on the force. You can't fill quotas and at the same time expect to get qualified officers. Doesn't work that way. You also, you had brought something up that I thought was a good solution. And again, you remember what you said before about the types of officers for different areas. I think that's...
Well, it's, I don't know how it would work, but if you have a community that's having a tough time and there's some people there who want to grow up to be officers, but perhaps you can kind of use those people like from that local area to police that area. But the problem is
well, what about black cops in black areas? That's more what I was alluding to. If you could put, if you have a Hispanic area, police officers that speak Hispanic or are bilingual and can police that area. And then what you have to do, though, when you do that, white officers in white areas, maybe that could lead to
I don't
less
know,
tension.
Though, if that's actually a good solution.
I don't know either. I'm just trying to put them out on the table.
To me, the other, I also kind of see that promoting...
What's a negative with that? Go ahead.
It kind of promotes a divide also. Like you're at the point now where you can't have a white police officer in a black town, and you can't have a black cop in a white town.
It's almost forming two countries.
It's not good. It's not. It's actually not. It's kind of not a solution. And what I was saying before also is that if you take some people from their neighborhoods and put them back in there, sometimes it could breed corruption.
Yes.
And there's already enough corruption.
Sure.
So
no, I think
this is tough.
Yeah, I think that really hard data and some hard pills some people are going to have to swallow. And like I said, I think the two solutions that I've heard so far that we've brought up that, can potentially be part of a more full solution would be the testing has got to be looked at. These civil service tests have been rife with corruption for years. There's nepotism. There is, hiring based off of quotas, throwing tests out for I had another test I took. It was at Madison Square Garden for a different police force, and they had the people that were proctoring the tests were people who worked at Madison Square Garden that sold like the pretzels, and they were proctoring it. So then the geniuses that gave us the test realized afterwards, wow, maybe there was some cheating going on. So that test was thrown out. So I think that the testing right away, again, you're going to have to tackle some tough issues because people that are in favor of reparations or quotas or, increased hiring of minorities because they're minorities, I think you're going to have to decide what's more important to you, hiring minorities or military and just giving people that are maybe less qualified breaks or hiring more qualified people. I think you're going to have to start to decide, make a decision what's more important to you. Mm-hmm. But then you can't be surprised when things happen that show how unqualified some police officers are.
Right.
I think testing is the first thing that needs to be looked at. I think secondly, you brought up a good point as far as practices and increased funding for police officers because training.
Not necessarily to say give them more money in their pockets.
No. Many of them are paid well.
Right.
That's not the issue that we're talking about.
Unfortunately,
some of them are not paid well.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not. That doesn't mean for everybody. But I think that
I knew a few people who were city cops who had no business being cops.
No, you could look at them and see it.
I mean,
looks like you like looking into a blank slate.
Yeah. I mean, that goes to exactly what you're saying, though. It's like anyone could be a cop. Anyone could be a cop, and it's like, well, I don't know if that's a job that everyone should have the door open for them for.
The test that was thrown out that I took basically was the type of test you see a third grader take.
Right.
The language that was used was elementary. The questions were bordering on insulting. So if people could not score high enough on that test, you don't deserve to be a police officer.
Right. You obviously don't have.
This is not a job you take lightly. It's not a job where you just, because somebody is a certain color or a certain religion, you hire them because of that. You're dealing with somebody who has people's lives in their hands.
Like
you gotta
too, I think
hire based on qualifications.
Nepotism was a good thing to touch on too.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely like a who you know type of job.
Sure.
And I don't think that's too healthy either.
No.
It's kind of like a spoil system.
Yeah.
And,
look, it's
it's not good.
Those are things that have been rife in the police.
Answering those questions would be solutions.
Right.
Answering the call to nepotism, answering the call to
quotas.
Answering the call to these tests that a third grader could take that people can't pass, and then they just throw out the people that do pass this test, and then put the people in who couldn't pass.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't want them wielding a gun, a taser, pepper spray, cuffs, and a badge, driving around a high-powered car with a shotgun in the back.
And this is not just for police, but this is something I witnessed being a teacher as well. So I think it's time as a country we start to really look at these things.
We have to step our standards up.
Yeah, I think what's happening is you're seeing people now. I'm seeing a lot of people on the left are saying we need more quotas. We need more. No, like, you're not really looking at what's causing these problems. Is not that there's not enough people of color or religions. You're just getting unqualified people across the board for a lot of jobs.
Right.
Look, not for anything. I think women should be cops. But if you're a woman who can't physically do the job, or a man who can't physically do the job, then you're not going to be a cop. Just like, look, I had trouble in math in high school. I'm not going to be a mathematician, and when it's common sense. You do what you're qualified to do in life.
It's a really tricky time to be an American.
Yeah, it sure is, and things like this only make it worse.
They make it worse, and one thing you can't do is turn your back on the country.
No.
Right now,
it's about coming together.
Is coming together, the left and the right, everyone.
Correct.
Independence. We need to, take a break for a minute and kind of just put down the torch and just, really have some constructive conversations, which is what we're inviting on this podcast. Yep. I mean, we really, if people could drop a comment and If you have any solutions to what you think
Sure.
would improve policing,
We welcome them because this is a problem that is only getting worse.
we don't know all the answers.
Right.
We're just kind of
Pointing out that
we're giving you from where we stand.
But I think that it's important to remember we don't need violence begetting violence. We don't need innocent people suffering as a result of things. Look, again, it goes back to, I think we have to really look at everything that goes into becoming a law enforcement officer. And, training, even like you said, needs to be ongoing. It doesn't just, you're in the academy, you're in shape, you pass the physical, and boom, you're on.
Well,
and then you never have to pass
so
it.
many different careers. That's
the way it goes.
mandatory.
Yeah.
You don't just become a doctor and
No.
your medical, your medical education stops.
There was, sorry to interrupt.
No.
There was, and I'm laughing about this. It's not even funny. It's like exasperation almost. There was a fight that broke out at the down the road from the protest that happened that I happened to be at, and the officer that broke it up. When I tell you, I was more scared he was going to have a heart attack,
Right.
than anybody getting hurt on either side.
You were scared the cop was going to have a
I
heart
was
attack.
scared the cop was going to have a heart attack just because he was so out of shape. He was really, he was older.
That's what I'm saying.
And-
You see these cops who
And
have,
he couldn't handle it. The poor guy, it was like people were
going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And someone's going to steal his
Right.
gun.
And it's, I think, guys, these are problems that we have to look at educated. When you have uneducated people becoming the leaders or the talkers for different groups, that's where the problem is. You need educated people who have the right temperament to be the leader of your group. So if you're in Black Lives Matter, maybe look at who your leadership is and what message look what they're about,
Right.
and what message it is that they're trying to get across, and then decide, is this something for me to support? And consequently, on the other side of the table, I don't need somebody speaking for me that
Right.
doesn't have my own, but I think you need educated people sitting down and discussing things in a productive way, proactive way, not just taking to the streets and destroying things.
Well, right now, everybody's running around on emotion.
Absolutely.
And
for several reasons.
I think, again, I'm going to just go back to this. The country needs a break.
Yes, in a big way.
In a big way. This isn't, it's not sustainable.
No.
Everything that's happening.
No.
The economic issues, the policing
Right.
issues, the civil rights unrest. It's like
Yep.
there has to be some kind of grand convention where there's a public sit down with all the most influential politicians, leaders,
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, this goes to show
there's nothing happening.
This goes to show me when a lot of things like this occur that a lot of politicians, they don't really care that the problems get solved. They prefer the problems to be there, just like the media, because then it just makes their jobs necessary.
Well, nobody wants to talk to them. Everybody just wants to be outraged and run around.
Well, and the press gets to write about this.
Right.
And it keeps them relevant because people are checking the papers to see, when you start solving problems and then the problems go away, there's less to write about.
Yep.
When problems go away, people like Al Sharpton become obsolete, and you don't need to hear their nonsense anymore or see his face at a funeral for somebody when he's really not there for the person. He's only there to continue to keep himself relevant. So people need to also stop being used as pawns.
Right.
So a poor person is killed in his honor or shot. Thank God he wasn't killed. In his honor, justice should be served. But make things better for the future. Solve the problems. And again, hopefully, we just wanted to point them out. And it's, this is a deep problem, but we hopefully get some feedback and some, solutions from you guys because
it's tough for us because, again, we support the police.
Yes.
We understand.
They're necessary. They're necessary.
They are very necessary. Well, let me tell you this much. If it ain't the police, it's the Second Amendment.
Right.
So pick your poison.
Right.
What do
Right.
you want? Do you want
Right.
me out there patrolling my
Sure.
safety, or do you want the
Right.
police out there patrolling?
Right.
Because
Or-
I might not be as nice as a
Or
cop.
you're gonna have something where you're gonna be going back to feudal times where it's basically
Just
free
anarchy.
Right.
Yeah.
So
We can't do that.
Right.
We can't do that.
Before people start to want to just sweep the table and say we don't need this, we don't need it. Like that's when
Well, this is where I get perplexed. Is the argument is defund the police and get rid of them, replace them with social workers, and also take away your guns, your gun rights.
Yeah.
So where does that leave us? Criminals are always going to get guns.
Right.
It's never been a problem before for a criminal to get their hands on a gun. And they don't have to be black. They could be white. They could be Asian. They could be Italian. They could be any type of criminal, you name it. They will get the guns. So you want to take away the police, that you're just kind of making me feel like I better go out and grab myself some more rounds, because there might be a time where there's going to be some mob coming through my town, and I'm not going to have anyone to call.
It's too easy to just make blanket statements like we need to do away with all police.
Right.
We need to take away guns. Those are just blanket statements that really
And it's insane to me that on Twitter it's like that's the top hashtag, I guess, is defund the police.
Yep.
Are you it's just the lowest form of thinking that I could ever imagine. They need more funding.
When you look at the leadership in some of these groups nowadays, you really are looking at people who are, if it wasn't for the fact that they were leading these groups, chances are they wouldn't be doing too much, because they did nothing before that. And it's very, it's very daunting.
You have a lot of people who've done a whole lot of nothing, telling you how to live your lives.
Yeah, well,
and people
thank our schools too for churning out a lot of, in our colleges becoming hotbeds of these types of ideas that you're seeing nowadays. But separate issue altogether. I just hope, now that we're ending this podcast today, I just hope that this man gets justice. And obviously, if anybody knows what even led up to the interaction in the first place, again, it doesn't, in no way, shape, or form, should he have been shot in the back. I'm just asking what led up to that interaction.
Right. It's important information.
Yeah, just to see, because then I could see, is this a problem where, again, are cops just randomly walking up to people? And
he may have also had a gun in his center console.
That's what I need.
You don't know.
Look,
it's a hard conversation.
Right. These are things we need to know, and it's not right for the media. It's really fanning the flames when you just put these things out there and then you don't give the full story.
Sure.
But I don't expect more from the mainstream media nowadays anyway. So with that being said,
that's the problem, though. I mean, we'll leave it here, but the media has lost all my trust on both sides. Both sides. The only thing I really believe nowadays is what I see with my own two eyes. Otherwise, how can you trust what anyone's telling you?
Yep.
Everyone's peddling something. Everyone's pushing a product. Everyone's out for themselves. And that's what I want socialists to remember.
Just gotta hope
no matter what you think, people are always looking out for their best interest.
Yes.
So we're going to drop it there. This is going to be
cooler heads prevail, please.
Yeah, please. Everybody relax. Outraged over this incident. And
we
again, my best wishes and prayers for the man. I hope he has a speedy recovery, and I hope those police officers are dealt with accordingly. And other than that, we're going to leave it there for this Monday.
Stay safe, everybody.
Stay
Be well.
safe. Stay cool.